centre. Oh, this could be an opening. The man didn't want to have the opening. It's Lawrence Sheffield. That is the moment. The moment of matters.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Hearts and Sleeves podcast, a podcast that's all about Heart of Midlothian Football Club, its fans, and the ups and downs we experience on the way, both on and off the pitch. John isn't with us today, but we do have Adam and Trunter. We do have a guest as well, but before I introduce him, let's say hello to Trunter and Adam. How you guys doing? How's your weekend?
Busy for me. We had three chefs off this weekend. One's become a father this week. One has unfortunately lost his father, and on Friday the other chef managed to burn the hell out of his arm. So my weekend was a bit mad, but yeah, had a better week this week, mate. How are you doing?
Been very busy with work, been a bit of a stressful time. Adam and me do similar sort of jobs. I just imagine it's been quite stressful for him as well. But as ever, the highlight of the week is at the start when I get to chat to you guys. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, obviously went to the Hearts game. Also went to the Paolo Sergio event yesterday with John, and that was like a Foundation of Hearts event. And that was great. Obviously, Paolo Sergio was very witty, very funny. He had plenty to say, so it was a really nice event. And I think it's really good that we seem to have a lot of events now this season, which is really great, and it's kind of building on all the positivity I think everyone's feeling about the club. And one of Sergio's big messages was back the players, basically. He highlighted when early on Casaridis made a mistake and like the crowd were just groaning and everything, and he was saying, you know, we have to just get behind them if we want to win the league. But he was certainly confident we were going to win the league. So it was really nice to hear him. And we got photos with him and everything. Seems like a really nice guy.
Wise words. Did he give any stories about back in the day with Mad Vlad or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, he actually said Vlad wasn't the craziest owner that he worked with.
Right.
But he did say, he told a story about how Romanov would come in with an interpreter and Romanov would talk for 5 minutes and the interpreter would say one line. And then once the interpreter left the room, Zaliukas would then translate and tell everyone what really happened. So he was kind of praising Zaliukas as well. He said he tried to get I don't know if this was common knowledge, he said he tried to get the Hearts job again at some point. I think he was hinting it was when Craig Levine appointed himself as manager.
I'm
Sergio
sure I
had
remember
tried to get the
hearing
job,
that.
yeah, Sergio had tried to get the job, but had been overlooked, and I think it was when Levine was like manager for the second time. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, he had a lot of good stories, and Gary Locke was there, and there was also the coach guy, the assistant Sergio. I can't remember what his surname is, to be honest. The Portuguese, another Portuguese guy, Sergio. Like his first name Sergio, the assistant, but I can't remember the surname.
Sergio Paulo.
Yeah, that's
very good. Very good.
That's it. So yeah, but it was mainly Paolo, and then Gary Locke spoke a little bit as well.
Good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, you and John. Now, before I introduce our next guest, I do just want to give a slight content warning. As our listeners know, we often discuss well-being and men's mental health, but this week the topic of suicide will be included in this discussion. In Scotland, it's the biggest killer of men under 50 and therefore a hugely important conversation. However, if you aren't in the right place for it right now, please do prioritise your own well-being and listen back when you feel ready to listen to that conversation. If this topic does in any way affect you, then please don't hesitate to seek out support. Samaritans is free. There's never any judgment and always available regardless of the time, either day or night. Call them on 116 123. So our guest this week is Hearts fan Phil. He's been a jambo since 1973, so he's seen plenty of downs and some ups as well. Now, unfortunately, in July 2021. Us Jambos lost one of our own, and Phil lost his youngest son, Fraser, to suicide. We are going to discuss with Phil his grief journey and what has helped him through, as well as how Hearts have played a part in this. Phil, thanks again for coming on to the podcast. How are you, and how was the weekend for you?
Thank you for the invitation. The weekend, in my opinion, was actually quite good. I got to the game. I enjoyed the game. It was squeaky bum for 70 minutes, but the introduction of Shanklin improved everybody's performance, in my opinion, and we got the win that we deserved.
Yeah. It was definitely squeaky bum are the two words that have been on our lips for the past couple of weeks, and that was another one, wasn't it? As you say, Phil, I do think we deserved the win in the end. But it was a tough and hard fought win for sure. Shankland, it was a delight to see him back, Phil, and Devlin as well. What did you make of Devlin?
It wasn't his best game, in my opinion, but he brought an energy that we've been lacking for a few weeks. Well, 8 weeks. So no, I've gladly seen him back. I only arrived at 2:30. I live in Haddington, and the buses were running late. And I only got the news of Halkett Milne as I was walking up the steps to my seat. So I was starting to be getting a bit worried at that point, but I thought the players that were on the pitch did what they've done all season and pulled together and done brilliantly.
Yeah, I should point at this point as well, Phil, that Trunter's another East Lothian boy as well. So hence the cheer when you mentioned Haddington. But
I only moved here. I moved to Haddington 5 years ago from Portobello.
Also away.
I'm a Porty boy, and it wasn't easy to be a Porty boy. It wasn't easy to be a Hearts supporter in the Portobello area in the kind of 70s. They were mainly all Hibs boys.
Imagine, aye.
Portobello High School with John Robertson and David Bowman in my maths and art classes, and
I mean,
different.
Before we started recording, like I'm going to have to just jump to this. You went to school with Robbo.
Yes. We played at Portobello High School at the time, didn't have any grass space, so we played in the car park outside the houses. And Robbo, being Robbo, every time the ball came near me, I just booted it as far away as I could. I had no skill compared to his nickname was Pop. And I said, every time the ball got near me, I just booted it as far away as I could. But my housemaster at the time, his name was Cuthbertson, Abercorn. He pulled me in the office and he said, Wanless, you've got a good left foot. I want you to turn up to rugby training on Thursday. And I said, I don't do rugby. I'm a footballer. And he said, you don't do rugby? And I went, no, it's not my game at all. And the next morning, I was just talking to somebody for 2 seconds and he pulled me out and gave me 6 of the lash.
Woof.
For no
Different
reason.
times, man.
Oh, no, that's crazy, isn't it?
That's an absolute truth. That was because I didn't want to play rugby. I wasn't a football. I played football, but I wasn't anything. David Bowen was a fantastic player in my opinion, and a good friend. I was close to John, but more at playing snooker and pool because he was very good at golf, snooker, and pool. But he asked my sister out once.
Oh, really? Yeah. And what did she say?
She doesn't go out with guys under 5 foot odds. That's all. That was at Craigentiny Golf Course one night.
Do you still keep in contact with Robbo, or have you seen him at all lately?
Yeah, I go to some of the nights at the Gorgie Lounge, but I don't. To be honest with you, I don't. The only person I really talk to is a bit now is Gary Locke.
Mm.
My son's in the memorial. He's got a plaque in the Memorial Garden. If you've been on my Facebook page, you'll see that.
Mhm.
And Gary was there, and I know Gary's family because he's got family from Portobello.
Mhm.
And he gave me his number, and now and then I text him to say that was a great day or this was, but to be honest with you, I get kind of I don't know what the right word is, but shy talking to people who are like famous at Hearts. I
Yeah.
don't know what. I'd rather just be a jambo and just go to the games, and
Yeah.
I don't need to say, oh, by the way, I talk to this guy, I do this, I do that.
Mhm.
I've been talking to a lot of the young team lately, and I love it. I love it. Most of them are like a third of my age, but I have never enjoyed a season so much as this season, especially at Tynecastle.
Wait till
Because
it's a good season to start our podcast, eh?
what a fantastic season!
I've bumped into Gary Locke a few times over the years. Like, I don't know him at all, but he's been absolutely amazing every time I've ever spoken to him. I think it's really good that he's got the ambassador role at the club. I think he's like just perfect at talking to fans, and he always makes you feel he doesn't act like he's sort of better than you or anything. So it's
Yes.
nice to hear. It's nice to hear a good story about Locke, and obviously like my dad, we've also got a plaque for him. So we've been at the garden before as well. So I think that's also a really great thing that Hearts brought in.
Yes, I believe it was John Robertson's idea.
Oh wow, right.
Really? Wow.
I believe the Memorial Garden was John Robertson's idea, but yeah. Fraser's plaque is one row down and three across from Zakalunis's. So I don't know why it brings me a bit of comfort, but it does. I wish both of them were alive. Both great people.
Well, let's talk a bit about your son then, Fraser. As I mentioned, you've got two sons, and Fraser's the one you sadly lost in 2021. You mentioned to me that you gave them both the options of which team to support, either Hearts or Hibs, and they both chose the right path. They both became Jambos. What are your memories then of taking them to Hearts games?
So many memories. If you go on my Facebook, I was lucky enough to be filming Fraser when we scored the penalty against Celtic in the semi-final. So he would have been 12 at the time, and that gives me so much joy because he loved the Hearts, and scoring that goal then put us into the final against the Hibs. I was at Kilmarnock last week, and we were on the bus going through, and I was telling all the young team, I said my memories of the 2012 game, coming back from it, was Fraser. So Fraser would have been 12. We were driving along the M8, and we're going past the Hibs bus. So they're all on our left-hand side, and Fraser's like putting his 5-1 up against the window, and the whole bus was virtually on the left-hand side of the bus. And he said to me, "Dad, any chance you could ask the driver to slow down?" So I asked the driver, and he said, "Yeah." So
Hey.
5 minutes later, we were all on the right-hand side of the bus as the Hibs bus went past us. Well, he'd done that 3 times, and then eventually I said, "No, you can't. Come on, that's enough." The other one is we had a rule about the 90-minute rule, which I think most dads have got. Swearing whatever you do. So, because in my house we don't swear that much, or there'll be the odd occasion, but during when the Wheatfield was not, Fraser would have been 5 or 6 year old. Hibs came to town, and they were flying their usual kind of tricolours and a wee bit of stuff that kind of gets my back up a wee bit. It shouldn't, but it does. So I was giving it a wee bit of mouth, and Fraser seemed to be like lapping it up. He was just looking at me the whole time, and I'm looking down and going, "I shouldn't be saying this. I shouldn't be saying this." Well, the next week we were playing Dundee United, and he was looking at me for the whole 90 minutes. And I knew what was on his head, and he turned around and he went, "Dad, when are you going to start shouting at them?" And he didn't get the fact that if it was Hibs or Celtic or Rangers, it was different. The 90-minute rule was, you could swear in the ground, you could not misbehave, but you know what I mean.
Oh, aye. There's two very different Jamies, by the way. There's the Jamie that I've known for over 2 decades outside of the football, who's very polite, very calm, and then there's Hearts Jamie, that is a different beast entirely. Jamie, when you took Robin, did you follow the 90-minute rule at all, or?
Look, to be fair, that was a League Cup game, I think. So it's like in the qualification.
Oh yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So I didn't get too carried away. He's still so my son's 8. He's still a few years off. Is seeing his dad at a derby or an Old Firm game. That'll be an experience for him. I feel. But yes, I mean that's part of it, right? Is that escapism? And Phil, you've mentioned how watching Hearts is a great bit of escapism from you. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah. So up until 2021, suicide had never come into my life. Mind health had never come into my life. I was kind of one of those dads that had been brought up, or that give yourself a good kick up the arse type of attitude. Fraser had said to me, both my boys were engineers, that Fraser didn't like the UK, he wanted to go to America. He said that the British government were rubbing us blind. He didn't believe in COVID. That was another thing that happened just before he died. That COVID was all about money making, blah, blah, blah. And each time he said anything to me, I said, "Can we just play by the rules? Can we just go?" And at the time, he was like, "Can we go to Motherwell away? Can we?" And I was like, "I've got to work. So after Fraser died, for the first couple of years, you're in a kind of fog. The worst thing that can happen to any parent happened. And there were so many things I had to try and dissect whys and what for's. But the bottom line, I kind of made a rule going into the third year that I was never going to say no again. So Harry came to me and he said, "Dad, can we the first game that he really wanted to go was the Palk." And I just said yes straight away. And that turned into a venture. And every game ever since has kind of been an adventure where I'm glad I've said yes. And I wish I'd said yes to Fraser more. But you can't wish your life away. I've got to. Can I mention something else, guys?
Of course you can.
Right. I'm asthmatic, so you're maybe hearing it in my breathing while I'm talking. And when I was 24 or 25, I was in intensive care unit, and I was dead for about 30 seconds. And from that day forward, I had a red flag against me, so that any time I had a chest infection or my SATs weren't good, I was in hospital. My wife, Fraser's mum, we'd split for about a year. We'd been married for 20 years, but we'd split in 2010. And on the 30th of August 2012, she died. That's the night we played Liverpool, by the way, at Anfield. And Fraser, 11-year-old boy, found his mother dead. And no red flags were ever put out to me, to Harry, or to Fraser to say this is a family who've suddenly lost a mother. And I think that's a big part of the problem going forward, where mind health is not looked at all at any level. Since Fraser's died, I've not had any counselling. And when my doctor asks me, "Where is your counselling? What do you do?" Because I don't take drugs, I say Tynecastle's my counselling.
Yeah.
That's how important it is.
Well, this is a conversation, Phil, me and everyone else on this podcast have had sort of quite frequently. It's look, it's not just the game itself, it's the conversations you have before a game and during a game that is just, I mean, as you say, it's therapy, right?
Yes. I love talking about Fraser. It's like the best. It's the nearest thing to having him here, because I send a wee message on Facebook sometimes to say, you wouldn't have liked that game today, son. This wasn't happening. This wasn't happening. I believe that social media is an evil, but it can also be used to do an awful lot of good. It's just humans that don't use it properly.
Yeah.
We could easily go into schools. We could do an awful lot of good about, mind health and feelings at school level, which we don't do.
I want to come back to that in a second, Phil. But you mentioned something earlier about how, when you grew up, just these conversations just would not happen, particularly amongst us men. What was it? Can you talk to me a bit more about that? About how, you dealt with things when you're younger, and what the general attitude towards mental health was when you're younger as well.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to say that I had a great upbringing. I was very, very, very lucky compared to my children. Mum and dad around, loving parents, Portobello, nice life. So I didn't. Mind health never came into anything, It was. I really didn't. Up until how do I put this? Fraser taking his life made me a better person. I became so much less judgmental of anybody who struggles with addiction, mind health, trauma. All of these words would probably have never come into my vocabulary before Fraser's death.
You mentioned there that schools don't do enough as far as mind health goes. What changes would you like to see in that regard?
Education, education at age appropriate, where we talk about our feelings, we talk about addiction, we talk about trauma. At age appropriate in every school. I think it's all great that you know what the colour of a country's flag is, but in the reality, would you know how to deal with somebody close to you passing away? Would you know how to deal with abuse at home? Would you know how to deal with? And I don't think we do that. I think I put on my post that we teach our kids to brush their teeth. We teach our kids to walk across the road and properly, but we don't give them the tools to deal with their feelings.
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. I mean, Jamie and I work in a university, and I think one thing that gives me hope is the experience. So we work in a sort of student support role, and when I left uni in 2013, there was just none of that support at all. Like, I got supported by an academic who just happened to get to know me and help me. So the one thing that gives me hope is seeing the differences even in the last sort of 10, 15 years at university in terms of the support students receive. And I think trying to do more at school certainly, I know, would certainly make a massive difference. Like John, my brother, who's normally on the podcast, he was only about 15 when we lost our dad. And obviously he's not on, so I don't know exactly what he'd say, but I'd like to hope that in the future, or even since my dad died in 2015, I'd like to hope that things are gradually improving. But I definitely think, there's a lot more that could be done. Because you don't really learn how to deal with trauma and difficult situations. So I think the more that we can do with younger people, the more chance that.
Dealing
What,
with
sorry?
grief.
Yeah,
Dealing with grief. I'm
exactly.
so sorry. I'm so sorry you lost your father so young.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 12 years older than John, so I was in my 20s, which is still obviously young, but John was a teenager. So I think, yeah, you don't know what to do. Even with me, when I was in my 20s, you don't really learn how to cope. You don't know who to speak to. You don't, like in my own experience, when I've had grief, I kind of shut down, and I can't, like, even though I work with students and I kind of help them with that type of situation, my way of coping has been like kind of shutting down, and then weeks later the grief comes out, and that's something I'm trying to work on myself. And I think the more you can do when people are kids in terms of preparing them for things, I think it's just about making sure people know it's okay to talk about things and trying to remove the stigma about grief, about you know all difficult feelings. I think that's where the work needs to be done the most.
Yeah, grief is part of human life, and it's going to happen to us all. And it's about giving our children, and initially now children, the tools to know how to deal with it, in my opinion, that will hold them in better stead going forward. I don't think Fraser had any, Harry had any, or myself had any. I've only been watching kind of podcasts and regarding suicide prevention in Scotland, and it's mainly kind of charities that are driving it, and not the government. The government have offered, NHS have offered me nothing, nothing. It's only through myself. I'm going into my 4th year, stroke 5, and I've learned to live a life now with grief. I'm learning that I have to live a life with grief, and that I only grieve so much because I love so much. And it's hard to say that now, but it gives me comfort because I love them so much.
Yeah. I mean, I also, so I know I don't want to turn this into being about me, but like we lost our sister as well a few years ago, and I just always, just from what you're saying, I remember one time, like, I was at my mum's house, and I put the TV on, and I could see like her sort of watch history. It was on like the red button back then or whatever, and I saw that she'd watched this thing that was like a program that was like how to deal with grief. And for some reason, like, that sticks in my mind like so badly from all the sort of grief we've had in our family. Just seeing that my mum, was watching that kind of thing, it kind of highlights what you're saying about people not really knowing how to deal with that type of stuff and needing the support, and not really getting it because no one's really, when you lose family members, I don't think anyone's really coming to you unless you reach out for help. No one's really coming to offer you support in terms of like counselling and that type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to go back to Hearts, because I could talk about Hearts all day, but they're kind of like they're like my counselling, especially, and I talk about them all the time on my Facebook page about the young team. I think we've got the best set of young supporters that I've seen in a very long time. Some people disagree with that. I don't know why. They're always very polite, and the other thing that they do is they hug. In my day, when you used to go to football, you would shake hands with your friends. Now, if I go into the social club, I get a massive hug, and they say something like "happening." I don't know what to say to that. Happening, right? And I say, okay. There was also a very kind of different experience when I was in Thessaloniki, where Harry and I were walking back to our apartment, and some person decided to rip Fraser's memorial flag out my hand and run away. I chased him, but I'm 60 at the time. I wasn't. I was 60 at the time. But Harry was like, "Dad, they're waiting on you. Don't bother. Just So all the Hearts supporters were kind of gathered at a pub called, I think it was called the Dubliner.
Yeah.
And all the young team were there, all the ultras were there, and what a great few days we had. Honestly, even though we were rubbish on the park, but the atmosphere was great. And we got to the next morning. We went to the Dubliner, and a couple of young team came up to me and said, "You're famous." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "The flag." And I went, "How do you know about the flag?" Because Harry and I just went to our beds after the incident. And they said it's on X. I think it was called, it might have been called Twitter or something. And it was on some sort of ultras page or something, where 600,000 people had seen my son's flag hung upside down by some young guys with masks on. So I had said to a couple of the boys, I'll not name names, but I'd said to a couple of the boys, "Can you talk to these people?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said to them, "Tell the father of the memorial flag it's still in Thessaloniki if they want to come and speak to me." And they did. And the head of the ultras of the park, who are meant to be quite a big deal, returned the flag. I didn't get it at the pub. I got it at the airport, and it was. But one of the really touching points was one of the lads from the ultras, who I didn't really know, came up to me and went, "We're going to get you another flag," and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in Thessaloniki. To be honest with you, I kind of like the thought of my son's memorial flag being in North Macedonia, stroke Greece, because it was a message out there, that Fraser was there and his memory was there.
It's gone on an adventure there.
Yeah, it was at Chile last week, so it's no going back anywhere else. All it says is Fraser Wanless forever in our hearts. It's an 8 foot. I got it done by the usual guys, and I said to Harry, "Come on, we'll take it." And I didn't take it to Bruges, and I didn't take it to any of the other games, but what I'm trying to say here is the young team are what the young team at Tynecastle at the moment and the Hearts football team don't know how much they're doing for my mind health.
That's
Good.
lovely to hear. Yeah. And, obviously we've seen that they are the next generation, and you can see what they've been doing this season to really spur the team on, from helping with tifos to setting up camp outside, welcoming the players. It's great to see that, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah. And, it's really reassuring to hear that they're sticking up and looking out for the older boys as well, with helping you out with your flag. So, I mean, that's a lovely story to hear, Phil.
Well, luckily I got the flag back, and since then I've been to loads of kind of semi-finals, finals with the young team, and quite a lot of them know about Fraser. So some of them have confided in me and said that they're dealing with a lot of it to do with trauma, which is around addiction. And I'm a bit better placed now than I would have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, to say, you need to break this cycle. You need to go and get professional help. You need to speak to somebody who can take you to a better place. And a lot of them have thanked me later, and I put that down to Fraser.
I think that's a really sort of powerful thing, that people, boys, young men, are able to come up and talk to you about what's going on in their lives due to a completely awful, terrible thing that's happened to you, but they now feel able to talk to you, and it's really great to hear that you'd be able to give them some guidance and so forth. Trunter, do you want to come in with anything at all?
Sorry, just think about a lot of things there. Wow. I mean, I was thinking earlier about jumping in there just when we're talking about how Phil's not really being looked after by stuff like the NHS, and they're not very forthcoming with stuff like that. I've had my own experience with I've had a couple of them, but the last time that I was really, what felt like at my end, I think it was quite traumatic for my girlfriend too. But I got down to my community hospital, and I've been chatting to GPs and stuff, and I was like, look, this is really, I'm needing help now. And what I was offered was, had a couple of phone calls, not even in person, with a locum GP, and was then offered some group counselling sessions, and I just had to wait a mere 15 to 16 months. So yeah, I've got my own experiences with maybe feeling a wee bit let down by something like the NHS.
Yeah.
It's quite ridiculous that you can have to wait so long for stuff like this, and it just shows how we're still miles behind when it comes to dealing with mind health.
Yes.
And obviously I was at high school 96 to 2002, and there was nothing. I still feel like such a young man, and it's as recent as me being at school that it was still get on with it. So it's there's generations that are still just haven't had any kind of way to learn about these things that we really do need to learn about. Depression, anxiety, dealing with grief, a lot of this stuff. I think the double-edged sword of social media as well. Things like you talking to the young team, and they're hugging and stuff. Like you say, that's quite, even for sort of like mine and Jamie's age. Even the hugs and stuff with young men is still pretty new, I think. And yeah, like, I think social media, like, the young folk will see quite a lot of stuff about that can maybe help them to be a bit more open and think that they can, know that it's fine to talk about stuff like mental health. Obviously, there's the horrible, like, black heart of social media as well that they can get dragged down in.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are the goods and the bads of stuff like that. And I just really hope that we can really, like, just as society get caught up to a place where we can really try and understand all this stuff. Because I still, I think I'm sort of my age group, we're still quite, this is part of the reason that we've got the podcast and that we're all kind of this age, is that we're really trying to be more open about things that really, not being able to talk about. Yeah.
Talk about your feelings.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I talk a lot about my feelings at the football. Especially, I talked to Fraser during the football, but I also loved sharing hearts with Harry. This season has helped me keep going. Some of the joy this season has been unparalleled. The connection and the normality that Hearts have kind of brought back to me when it shouldn't feel like anything like that. And I don't think that the club understands that I'm not the only person, and that there's hundreds and hundreds of families who feel the same. If you look at my post that I say about, thank you to Harry Midlothian, I love you, the amount of people who've also said that going to the football is like their escape. You'd be shocked how many people do go to Tynecastle on a Saturday, not just for Hearts, but just to escape the world for an hour and a half. And it's all Hearts have always been more than a football club to me. I mean, I loved when Kenny McLean scored from the halfway line, but if you want the truth, Hearts winning the league would mean more to me than Scotland qualifying. I'm sorry if that comes across wrong, but I'm a Hearts supporter. Just on that subject, I was in the World Cup. I was lucky enough to attend the World Cup in '98, with 6 other jambos, my lifelong friends. And we both said to each other, what we said to every one of us, this isn't about Hearts, this is a Scotland trip. And we were walking along the Moulin Rouge, and I could hear this song, Hearts, Hearts, Glorious Hearts. And I looked in the window, and it was Gary Locke standing on a table with his Scottish Cup winning strip on. Well, that just absolutely fucked that right up. What I'm trying to say is the effort that the club, the Hearts have made on the part this year, the unity, I feel like we're a family, especially at Tynecastle, because I've always been in away. I've always much more enjoyed going away games, if you want the truth, in the past. Not this season. This season, I've loved every game at home. And I think Derek McInnes is a huge part of that. Not since Jim Jeffries and Gary Locke have I felt that we've got somebody who's in charge of us who just gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who really gets it.
Speaks volumes how much we love him and everyone else hates him. You know what I mean? Like,
and like, remember that event we went to at the start of the season, Jamie, and Derek McInnes, we hadn't even, like, basically Derek McInnes got like massive applause and everyone was like chanting and everything, and he sat down and he was like, I've not even won a game yet. But it was that quickly, I think everyone kind of took to McInnes even before we'd started winning. You just had a good feeling about him from day one. I think he's really transformed the club.
Guys, at the start of the season, I'm sure you've heard it loads of times before, but if somebody told us with 7 games to go, we were going to be 3 points ahead of Rangers and 5 against, you wouldn't. You would honestly think that somebody had been on some sort of whatever. And somebody said to me at Kilmarnock, do you think we can win the league? And I said, I don't go for that. I just say, shit's getting real. That's all I say. That's all I say. And, you know, as each week goes past, it's getting even realer, and I'm loving it.
I'm still expecting to wake up and find out it was all a dream at some point.
My favourite season was '98, obviously, because it was the World Cup year, but this is in Heart won the first thing in my life, and now where it's another World Cup year, and our Heart's going to win another thing in my life.
That does seem like fate, right?
It does to me.
So, I mean, just sort of looking ahead to how Hearts are doing, when we got the 3 points, a hard earned, as I talked about earlier, 3 points against Dundee, I just felt so exhilarated coming away from that. But then Rangers winning on the Saturday. This is the proper roller coaster being a jambo, right? Knowing that if in all likelihood, so we'll both be playing again 2 weeks due to international break. Rangers this time will be playing first, and if they win, that would put them on top. You know, for the first time since August, put them top of the league just due to goal difference. However, it was obviously, so I was feeling a bit down about that, and then Celtic bring my mood right back up again on the Sunday. Just thinking, could this now be a 2-horse race? Honestly, what a fucking season!
I love it, and from a personal point of view, it's the first season where I remember when we beat Celtic 3-1 and hugging my boy so much, and Fraser was with us, and that's the power of football.
Yeah.
At the back of the stands, on the new stand, it was up the top, and we've both been through. He's lost his mother, he's lost his brother, and we cuddled for I don't know how long. And that never happened with my father. My father never told me he loved me ever. I know he did, but he never. It wasn't the done thing. Could I tell you another highlight from Saturday?
Please do.
Gary Halliday.
That's something I want to touch on. I'll let you talk about your Gary Halliday, but what I want to also mention as well as if you could discuss with us a bit about your fish, exotic fish, and your connection to Hearts there.
This is what I'm waiting for.
Right. Okay, I'll talk about the fish first. I got made redundant by Carphone. Well, I took redundancy in 1999 from Carphone Warehouse, and I opened up a tropical fish shop in Leith Walk. And I had it for 8 years, and it was doing fantastically well. Couldn't tell anybody at the time I was a jambo because every Saturday was filled with Hib supporters before game, or every second Saturday. So I decided at the time not to mention that the owner of this company is a Heart supporter. So yeah, I opened that up. But during the 2013-14 where we were struggling, we kind of the kickback asked us to go to Tynecastle and raise funds for administration. So I used to take a fish tank up to the Gorgie Suite, fish tanks, and auction them off to try and raise funds for I think Save Our Hearts was the first one, but then it moved on to the foundation. And seeing Gary at the halfway line I couldn't hear a word he was saying, by the way. But Gary's, I would like to say, has become a good friend of mine. And just he's everything that's good about Hearts at the moment, and I love him.
That's great to hear. So, Phil, I just want to sort of ask you then, what you talked about mind health to school. That's one thing you'd like to sort of introduce greater and more involved conversations at school. Is there anything else you'd like to see, or indeed any sort of guidance or advice you can give to anyone who's struggling?
Don't be afraid to talk. It's not a weakness. Don't. I think a lot of people think that mind health per se is a weakness. It's not. It's human, and we all go through it. We all go through trauma. We all go through grief, in any shape or form. Addiction. You could say that Hearts are an addiction. You could say gaming's an addiction, where people mask or cope by masking how they're feeling through some other sources. Now, following Hearts can't be that bad, but if you're spending fortunes on a FIFA game or gambling to money that you don't have to cover the real problem, which is in your mind or in reality in your life, you need to seek help, and that's not a weakness.
I think there's something that really stuck with me, Phil, when I was reading your post on Facebook. You said, feeling is not weakness, reaching out is not weakness, it's human, it's necessary, it's life-saving. And I just think that's a perfect way to describe people who are struggling, just understanding that there is no weakness there. You know, that's kind of one of the mindsets I had. That's what took me genuinely decades to really address what I was going on. I'm grateful I got to the stage. I never thought I'd get to the stage of being able to reach out, but there I was, and that what I think is the first step to getting better, and the hardest step to getting better is just for people who grew up with a mindset where it's it's difficult to talk and talk about feelings, is taking that first step to have a discussion.
Yes.
So I just really appreciate what you've done, Phil, and just helping people to have these conversations, helping those young guys at the football come up to you and say, "Here, I'm having some problems here, Phil." So yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you from all of us Jambos to what you've done.
And I'd like to think Hearts. If I had a chance to stand in front of the Hearts team right now and look them all in the eye and say, you don't know what you've done for my life and my son's life after suicide. no matter what happens for the rest of the season, because if you want the truth, if we don't win the league, yeah, I'll be disappointed, but the season's been that good. No bubbles bursting in my eyes. Nobody's going to tell me 7 months at the top of the table is a fluke. And those players deserve all the plaudits they get in my eyes.
Absolutely, mate.
It's really great when we've got guys like you on the podcast, and I really like the fact that we're Hearts fans. You know, that's like, to me, like, Hearts are kind of just the excuse for this podcast so that we can talk about other things as well. And it's nice having a sort of community like Hearts that can bring everyone together to talk about, you know, all the different things affecting them, and hopefully hearing you speak about it, you know, hopefully that inspires other people to speak to other people about their feelings and any issues they've been affected by as well. So yeah, really grateful that you came on.
I'm grateful to be here. This is as I said earlier, I am going forward. I'd like to be speaking to Suicide Prevention Scotland, and I didn't think I got interviewed in Pilsen, and I remember I was so nervous. I thought, I bet and I actually came across. I thought, okay, on the BBC. I think it's. And now I'm thinking, could I now do a podcast from a survivor of suicide? And this is part of the process. And when Jamie approached me, I thought, do you know what? This could be the start of me with my dreadful experience taking a step forward to help, especially young people. I'm not knocking the older people, but I think going forward we've got to educate our younger people better in the terms of feelings and the tools that they need to deal with grief. And this is part of the process. So I thank you guys a lot.
You're very welcome, Phil. And I know that this podcast will be listened to and be very helpful to your conversation and what you've said, your input, your experience will be hugely helpful to some people listening to this. Is there anything else you would like to end with at all, Phil?
I think it's going to be obvious, other than I hope Hearts win the league. Behind every kind of over the last few years of after Fraser's death, I have a partner who has her own. Her name's Debbie, and she has looked after me. I can't even put into words how much she's looked after me over the last 4 or 5 years. So a big thank you to Debbie for looking after me since Fraser's death.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah. Sending love to you, Debbie.
Thank you. The other one I would say is anybody who is feeling alone or who has temporary thoughts, and remember they're always temporary thoughts until you make them permanent, that you reach out, that there is always somebody, when, especially a child, takes their life, the pain that they had doesn't go away. You're just passing it on to family, and in my case, to Dad. I miss him every day. He got to the age of 20. He just bought a flat in Gorebridge. He was working for McTaggart Scott, so he's an engineer. If you have a look at my Facebook pictures, he's a good-looking, strapping lad. Made some bad life choices, and most of all, he was just getting to the age. COVID kind of interrupted it, but he was getting to the age where he was not just my child; he was my pal. Yeah, you'll know that once your kids get older, that they'll then not be your children. They're still always going to be your children, but when they become your friends and your pals and your mates. Harry's my best mate, and I struggle how he gets. I've not lost a brother or a sister yet, and he has, and a mother. But yeah, reach out. Anybody who's feeling alone, you're not. Their thoughts are temporary. Just all the hardest part is reach out, and then there's always somebody that's going to listen. You're loved.
Thank you so much, Phil. If this episode has affected you, please do reach out. We did mention Samaritans, but of course our inbox is always open if there's something you want to discuss. Hearts and Sleeves podcast at outlook.com. You can also find us on our socials. We're on X, we're on Blue Sky, and we're on Instagram. We'll be back next week to preview the game away to Livingston. We'll try and get a guest on for that as well. Until then, look out for each other, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.